So the next thing we want to look at is how we can get the presents to appear in different parts of the screen. So there's different ways you can make this game. You could have them floating across the bottom, or you could have them appearing around the screen in different locations. I'm going to have the presents appearing around the screen in different places. Santa's going to have to try and move around the screen and try and collect the presents. So how are we going to do this? First of all, you click on whichever present you want to do first, so just make sure you select the right sprite. So I'm clicking on the purple sprite. Now I'm going to add some scripts for this purple present. So, like any sprite, we want to tell it what we want it to do when the game starts. So we have to use when the green flag is clicked. We click here and we say when the green flag is clicked. What do we want it to do? We want the purple present to move. So motion we're going to use. Now the way that it works, we could go to random position. You can see the purple one there is moving about now, and that's fine. The problem is, you can see sometimes it's far too high, given that Santa only jumps a certain height in the game. So if I put it up here, Santa won't be able to get it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that same idea but do it in a slightly different way. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use go to X, Y. And inside this we're going to use pick random. So inside the operators section on the right hand side, we can select operators. So I'm going to pick a random number. X-axis from left to right, I want it to be everywhere. So the left hand side of the screen is -200. The right hand side of the screen is +200. So that's going to go from left to right around the whole screen, which is perfect. The problem we've got at the minute is that it's staying on the same level on the y-axis. So you could do that, but I don't want to do that. I want it to be a little bit random, but just not too high. So again, I'm going to use the same idea. I'm going to use pick random. Row from between 1 to 10. I know the middle of the screen is 0. So I might try -100 to +100. So that means it's not going to go really high, and it's not going to go really low. It's always going to be around that middle area of the screen. If you wanted to set it up so it could go down a bit lower, which you could do, you could have it from -200. That would mean it could go to the bottom of the screen. You could go a little bit lower. Yeah, or let's say if it's a bit too low, -150. But anyway, you can play about and come up with different ideas for that. So that makes, whenever we start the game, the purple present appear in a random location. So obviously we don't want it to happen once, we want it to happen lots of times. So again, we are going to use the loop feature, and we're going to use a control, and we're going to use the forever loop. So I'm now going to put this bit of code inside the forever loop and reattach it up here. Let's see what happens now. It's flashing all around the place, so it's much too fast. We're not going to be able to collect that. So in the same way we used a little function before to make Santa wait at the top of his jump. So we're going to go to the present, and we're going to make the present wait. So we're going to use control, we're going to use wait, and rather than 1 second, because 1 second might be too fast, we might set it to maybe 3 seconds, so there's a bit more time. You might like 1 second, you can do that if you want. It's 100% up to yourself. You could also, using the same idea we did before, you can make it so that it's random each time. So again, using operators, we could say pick random, and let's go from 1 to maybe 3 or 4. You wouldn't want 10 seconds because it might be too long. But 1 to 4, so now it's going to go to random location, and it's going to stay there for a random length of time. Sometimes it might stay there for a second, sometimes it goes a bit quicker. So I like that because it's not the same then. You're trying to get it, you might get frustrated if you get over beside it and you jump and it moves just before you try and catch it. So that could add a nice element to the gameplay. And that's fine. So the next part we need to look at now is how we get Santa to interact with the sprite. So on the sprite's moving, it's appearing, but whenever we actually move Santa and go and collect it, nothing's happening. So we have to program the purple present to disappear whenever Santa touches it, and maybe create another add a little score up here in the present. So this is like his high score. So how are we going to do that? Again, we're going to go making sure we're on the purple present. And we are going to go to control, and we're going to say when the game starts, sorry, events. We're going to say when the game starts, and again we want this to be happening always, so we're going to use forever. So it's always checking this, and we're going to use the if, so we're going to check if something is happening. Again, just like we did with Santa, we want to sense if a key is being pressed. In this time, we want to sense is something happening. So there's lots of different ways we can do this. We're going to set it now so that if I'm on the purple, so I'm going to say if touching sprite. So I think we can use this one. So if touching, that should give me the choice of different sprites. It does. There's Santa there. So I'm going to use that one. I'm going to drag it. I'm going to put it inside here. And now it's going to check. I'm going to select the drop down arrow. I'm going to check if it's touching Santa. So if it does touch Santa, what I want to do, I want the present to hide. So I want it to disappear whenever Santa touches it. So we're going to looks, and I'm going to say hide. If we can find it, it's down the bottom here. If touching Santa, hide. Green flag. So let's see, forget about it. If I collect it now, it should disappear if I can get it low enough. So it does disappear. The problem we've got now is that it's disappearing all the time. So what you want to do is you want to set it so whenever it starts, when it goes back to after it goes back to pick another location, we want to set it to show. So if you're going to make something disappear and hide, then we're going to set it to show. I noticed there when I played that the Grinch was moving about. Don't worry about that. I'm going to delete that. That was just me messing around. So I'm going to delete that, and I'll talk you through that part after. So your Grinch should not be moving just yet. We're doing the presents just around the score system. So what I want to do now is I want to set it to show. So again, that's going to be inside looks, is at the bottom. I want it to, after it goes to the next random location, I want it to show. So now it should allow me to, it's just a bit too high. Again, it's a bit too high, can't get it. So you can see now it's disappeared, and it should hopefully appear. Now it's working fine, so it's appearing in another place on the screen. That's great. So the purple one is working the way that I want. The last thing I want is I want to be able to change this number. So every time Santa picks up the purple or the green present, we want to change presents by 1. So in that, we have a section called variables. And the variable that I'm going to be using is presents. So that's how we're going to select that. So again, we need to think about it, and we can do this in either of the sprites. We could do it in its own sprite. I'm going to put it in this one just because it's going to make sense, but you could put it, technically you could put it anywhere as long as you put it in the right place. So I want to set, when the game starts, I want to set presents to 0. This piece of code is already checking whenever Santa touches the present. So what do I want to happen if Santa touches the present? As well as hiding the present, I want to change, and rather than jump height, I'm going to change presents by 1. So let's see how this works. Didn't get that one, too high for me, didn't get that one. Should be able to get this one. So we got that one, I got that one. It's working fine so far. I want to see if there's one we can get really quickly to see if there's any bugs that might happen. That one's too high. So that seems to be working okay. Yeah, that's working fine. Number 3. So I'm happy with that, that's working. And now all I want to do is I want to use this exact same code on the green sprite. So we could do it all again manually, or we can just duplicate it across. So I'm just going to duplicate it across. Because we're using pick random, it's not going to go to the same place, it's going to go to a different place. So I'm going to right click on this, I'm going to select duplicate. I'm going to pop this down on the green present. I'm going to duplicate this part as well. I'm going to pop that one down on the green present as well. So for now, if I go here, you can see it actually hasn't duplicated. So let's try it another way. Oh, it has, just went on top. So what you want to do, once you duplicate it, you drag it down. Just delete this one. Should be another one here. Does it give me 3? No, 2. So again, just drag it down. See if it's on there. So that's on there now. Notice they've gone over the top of each other, so you have to move them about. And you notice got one extra here. So just be careful of that. I'll just go through that once to get this sorted. Whenever you right click duplicate, it just puts another one right on top of it. So you click on it and then you drag it down to where you want it to go. So it's a bit awkward that. You might find it useful just to code it again so you know where everything is. So now if we play it, the green and the purple should be moving about. Just stop and wait a second. My computer's just froze there slightly. It should hopefully come back on now in 1 second. There we go. So if I click on the green flag now, you can see the green and the purple present are moving about, and I can pick them up. So I'm happy enough with this idea at the minute. I can refine it further in the future. That's working good. So that's what we've done there, is we've created a score system. So we're changing the score. Now the one thing with the score, if I stop the game and start it again, you can see I've set the score to start to 0. So the most common mistake you might make there is you might forget this. So always remember to set your score to 0 at the start of the game, or the score won't reset after each game. So there, what we've done, we've added some more scripts to make our presents move about. At the top, quite straightforward, simple, bit of control and a bit of movement. And at the bottom, we have looked at how to make the sprites interactive, so that the sprites, whenever Santa touches the present, the score goes up and the sprite disappears. So that's the end of this session. The next session we're going to look at how to make the Grinch move across the bottom, and again he's going to move in different ways and ultimately trying to hit Santa, and whenever he hits Santa, he will take one of Santa's lives away potentially.